Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or over in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
Focus. Okay. Welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It's October 8th, 2024, and this is episode 86.
Woohoo, 86. Well, we just keep getting older. Time's flying, son.
moving closer to that 100 mark. I got to figure out when that's gonna hit. It's gonna be in January sometime, I think.
Well, hey, but speaking of marks that are 100, didn't we look at that earlier today? We're over 1,000.
Yes. We're
1,100 something.
1,107, I think, downloads.
Yeah, it really jumped quick.
Yep, it was pretty quick, and we're grateful for everybody who listens, especially those new people on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. We joined a bunch of other great shows on there, and we are actually on 5 o'clock Eastern on Thursdays at oracletalkradionetwork.com. So as we mentioned in our promos, you know, instead of listening to traffic and whatever they're saying when they flip you off when they pass you, you can listen to us instead. So.
And we are now in, 28 countries?
28 countries.
We're worldwide stars, I tell you. Worldwide stars, you old poop. No, wait, that's a whole different matter.
That wasn't that Driving Miss Daisy? Was that what that was?
Oh.
No, I can't remember which one that was.
That's terrible. On Golden Pond,
on Golden Pond, that's who it was.
Oh, Norman, you old poop, you.
That was.
Is that a good Catherine Hepburn?
It wasn't bad. I don't think I could do. I don't think I could do Henry Fonda. So I'll just leave that alone.
GAF Viewmaster.
Oh yeah. My gosh! But you know, those were vibrant colors. Those were like little slides. It was great.
I loved those things as a kid. I started out. My grandmother had the original Viewmaster, if you will, that had the two slides, so it was stereo, and you moved it back and forth, and you looked through the
and they would kind of like blend. Yes.
Yeah, and they would blend into one picture, and they were really cool looking. Yeah. And she had a whole box of the picture stuff. They were awesome to look at. So I went from back in the 90s, or which would have been the 1890s, all the way up to the modern VAF Viewmaster. We had a ton of those things. I loved looking at those.
I remember having some from because you could buy them at yard sales, and so my parents would see a few of them. I had Batman, the original Batman TV show, and the storyline for that one,
the captions under them.
Yeah, and I just remember, for some reason I remember the Batman because the big POW would be down there. It's like whenever Robin would get mad or something. But those were fun. I forgot about that. That's a good.
Oh, how we get off on things.
Yeah. And for our next tangent, we are.
Shoot! And thank those of you that are following along. Thank you. Those of you who go, huh? Never mind. You'll have to look it up. It's called if you only had this fancy equipment to discover what we're talking about.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think that's
pretty sad when you got to go check out what is that? What? Yeah. They're on the internet. It's that fancy interweb thingy.
Back in the 60s, they were only like $5. I mean, you bought them at Kmart, and they would always come with like 3 discs you could put in there. And
we would get those for Christmas. The package of 3 or 5 disc or whatever it might have. You might have got a super package if it was stuff from America. And it's a whole bunch of things.
We didn't get color TV until 1972 or 3. So a lot of times it's like with the Batman thing, it's like you didn't realize what everything looked like. You didn't realize the color of the Joker's skin or whatever. It's like until you got the Viewmaster thing. It's like, this is in color. This is so cool. I just remember that being
Batman's
in my head.
Tights were so inviting.
Oh, I know. And supposedly behind the scenes stuff with Adam West was really, really ugly. And you'll have to look that up yourself on the interwebs. that was very not
That
PG-13.
took a turn for the worse.
Oh, it sure did. Yeah, because it's in my head now. I should not have ever read that, but anyway, I did. Let's start off with this. It seems that Republicans that at one time were never Trumpers are changing their mind. And I mean, when you really kind of take a 30,000-foot view of things, how can you not be? There's a guy named Gordon Sondland. There's no U in there. If you remember, he was ambassador. That's what he was, ambassador to the EU for Trump. Then he ended up being a key witness to his impeachment hearings. So anyway, he became an unfan. I guess it's not a word, but he became an unfan of Trump. Anyway, here he is from last week being interviewed by MSNBC, and he's kind of changed his mind a little bit.
Why was it important for you to say no more Trump because of his January 6th conduct, and do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by it, and I'll tell you why. I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies, and I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well.
So when you
and it has to.
Ambassador, I'll let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th.
I did.
And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. That is how badly the Biden-Harris team have prosecuted their job.
But the whole point you seem to be making was that January 6th and that kind of attack on democracy is bigger than any policy.
I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
And how can you disagree? I mean, you think about how they've gone after Trump. He's made it 70-something years, or Trump is almost, how old is he? 77, 78?
77, 78, something like that.
He made it through like 77 years on the planet without any kind of federal charges, without any felony convictions, without anything. And all of a sudden he's got 91 charges and 4 indictments in 4 different jurisdictions. Come on now.
Oh, and that has been moved up to an appellate court or something, and they're looking at it going, no.
Yeah.
This is, it might even get totally dismissed because it's made up stuff that's like, what? And it has now cost, we were having this today, but I just read this like 2 days ago. There was a gentleman that had a $500 million project, and it got to the point where it was either the money was going to go in or not, and he just stopped it and went down to Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. Said, no, I'm not investing in New York. And a lot of others have done the same thing, and it's now cost New York something like $5 billion in jobs and that kind of stuff.
Well, Kevin O'Leary,
they just shot themselves in the foot. Yeah, absolutely. Kevin O'Leary said nope, and he's pulled out.
But he said the same thing. He says, where is the incentive for people to come to New York and invest money? If there's a possibility they're going to prosecute you for overvaluing your property that you're trying to get a loan on, he says everybody does that. And of course, that's out of our realm. But I mean, if Kevin O'Leary says everybody does that, then everybody does that. I believe him.
Yeah. Well, Muffin and I, with our $8 million piece of property, we had to do something. We told them it was 10. They only gave us 8 for the value.
Well, then nobody got screwed then. That's good. But nobody
we paid it back. It was fine.
That was the thing, though, that nobody got screwed on that whole thing anyway. So I just don't understand, they just want to disqualify him from being president, from even running for president. They want to take this whole, all these prosecutions and say that because of, Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, that he's disqualified.
Article 4, I think it was,
Article 4.
Something. Yeah, I don't, the Constitution is only relevant when they want to use something in it. Otherwise, it's just old paper and doesn't mean anything.
Paper otherwise, yeah. And Jamie Raskin, he's the one who kind of keeps bringing that up. He goes, even if he wins the election, we're going to try to do the 14th Amendment and try to get him disqualified. I'm like, dude, that's a flimsy thing to even talk about, but for you to take it in front of a court, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I did like the way Trump, they went back to Butler this week.
Oh, yeah.
And it was funny. He comes up, and as he starts, the start of his speech was, as I was saying, And he started that, literally, that's what he said, and had the thing up on the screen and the whole shooting match. He went over what he was going to say.
Did you mean to say the whole shooting match?
Well,
I hope not.
There was that. No, that was a happy accident.
Yeah, happy accident. Yes.
No, I did not. I didn't even know I had said it till you said it, and I went, "Oh,
But they got the stage set up in the exact same spot, just to kind of like it was beautiful. It was an act of defiance. I like that. That's the kind of leader.
Yeah, Elon Musk comes out jumping like a frog.
He did. I saw that.
It was hilarious.
He's a nut job. I love him though.
Yeah, he's one of those that have come around because he was like, no, and then he's going, this is not. You're taking away freedom of speech. That's not America.
But I think a lot of these people that have come in from other countries that have made it. You think about Vivek's parents and the way he has kind of seen all this this thing turn south in the whole federal government and go, this is not what we're based on. But it's not just pundits and politicians. If you feel like you have to hold your nose to vote for Trump, or if you feel like you just can't because he's a person you feel like you couldn't be around very much. First of all, you're not voting for your best friend. You're voting for someone who has the capabilities to do the job, and probably the hardest job in the world. And that sometimes that person might be, and to quote a word that we used in the promo, icky. It might be somebody that you might think is icky. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's these ones that have come around, and then speaking of ones that haven't. I always have to try to think. Hillary, it doesn't start with a K. Yeah. She was going, they have got to do something without X. Everything is just ruined. X is there, and they're screwing with stuff, and this is just wrong with all the misinformation. Oh, you mean the truth and the actual facts of what's coming out, as opposed to made up ones and stuff that is totally propaganda?
They've been throwing that misinformation word around since the beginning of COVID, and now people are going, I think people are getting tired of that word, just like they're getting tired. That whole agenda, that whole narrative that everybody that doesn't agree with us is spewing out lies. I don't know if that's really working anymore.
It's not. And she was sure trying to profess that it just needs to go away. Yeah. You've got to stop that. Okay. Well, you got that. You've got Rumble, which we do well on Rumble. We appreciate all of our listeners on Rumble. They don't send everything on there goes through. We don't try to be controversial. We don't talk about something unless we have some known facts about it.
Exactly. We're not going to sit here and just kind of throw out theories or whatever. We just want to give you information. And sometimes that information is uncomfortable for somebody who doesn't agree with the way everything went. There are times where I'm not comfortable with the way things went, but we will give you the truth one way or the other. So hopefully you can count on that until they start giving us money and sponsorships and everything. That's all out the window. I'll say whatever they want me to say.
Oh, so you're saying there's a chance you could be a sellout?
That's what I'm thinking. That write a big enough check, buddy. I'm right there with you.
Good to know you have principles.
When it gets go back to Trump, though, when you think about this, the guy who pumps your septic tank probably doesn't smell that great or have clean clothes or whatever. You don't want him sitting in your living room watching TV with you. But if you're having a problem with your septic tank, he is the guy that you want to see the most. You are excited to see him pull up in your driveway. But so it's the same with Trump. Trump might be the guy that you're like, oh, I don't know, but man, he's going to get the job done. Just like he did the first time.
Before.
Yes.
I mean, he has a proven track record, and still the left is not saying anything about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to make life better. When I get in, I'm going to fix all these things. You're in there now. You're the one who created all the problems.
I think that's the issue right now, is that they're not going to tell you because it's scary. But anyway, there's a guy, Benny Johnson. He has a great podcast, and he does this thing called Let's see, Street Political Interviews. It's called Benny on the Block. Here he is talking to a former Democrat on why she is supporting Trump now because she kind of woke up a little bit.
I am actually not a Trump fan. I think that he is narcissistic, he's egotistical, he's cruel. I don't like the way that he treats people. However, when I heard that Biden was no longer going to run, I was so hopeful that we would have a stand-up person to represent our country. And it's not Kamala. One of our family members was talking to us about how he chose his surgeon. And he chose a very narcissistic surgeon who is very good at what he does. He said that he ended up making this choice not because he was kind, but because he was too egotistical to let himself fail on a life-threatening surgery. And I feel that way about Trump. I feel like even though he is narcissistic, I feel like he is too egotistical not to protect our country. And protection is what we need right now. And in the world that we're living in, I feel like Trump is the right person.
I think she makes good points. Trump might have a big ego. I'm sure he does. I think every politician probably fits that category. But I think
and most businessmen who are worth $1 billion plus have an ego, or they wouldn't be where they were.
No, that's absolutely right. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we've got lots of clips from the presidential debate from last Tuesday, and it's really fun stuff. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. Segment 2. Man, it's going by fast again, man.
Zippity-doo-dah.
Getting to the debate. I don't know if did you see all of it? Did you watch it live?
No, I didn't watch all of it. It was just some of it. And I saw enough. I think I watched like 20 minutes or something, maybe 30, and went, okay.
Yeah.
that other Waltz was just, he was in so far over his head, he had to tip his head back to keep
breathe
popping above the water.
I was going to put a straw in his mouth.
Horrible.
Yeah.
God, he was just terrible.
Maybe this is my perspective, but to give him a little bit of credit, he did not fall on his face as badly as I thought he would. Because he did have those big eyes, like he just saw a horror movie or whatever. He's like, he was kind of like, I can't believe
nervous, and he was like, he couldn't remember stuff, and it's like, you got it wasn't good. And the moderators were just disgustingly horrible again.
Yes, they were. And but you know what, JD Vance, he handled all that extremely well. We'll actually have a clip on that too, that he didn't kind of let him get away with that too often. He did a little bit. And to give them both credit, also they were very amicable. They seemed to get along. They actually agreed on some things. It was actually, he handled himself much better than most politicians in those situations, because, it could have gone the other way. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. But of course, Waltz came out swinging with the lies that he's been told, or that he's been told from the very beginning, the easily disprovable stuff about the inflation rate during Trump's presidency, which was completely false.
Did he try to, I missed that part. Did he try to say it was 9% again?
It seems like he did. And I don't have that.
That's what he's done before.
Yeah, he has. It's like him and Kamala both have said that it was like 9-something% when they took office. It's like, no, it was Joe that said that. But no, they bring out the overall prosperity was in the tank when they took over, and of course the inflation rate. Anyway, JD kind of put it in perspective pretty quickly, and this is what he had to say.
If you notice, what Governor Waltz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics
that's a gross generalization.
That he did. So what Tim Waltz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you've simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
It's like he's so smart. It just he had no notes.
He said a lot in a very succinct, short period of time that here it is. This is what was done. Go ahead and deny it, because all you got to do is go to that interweb thingy that's on everybody's device that's in their hand.
Yeah, and these are CBO, Congressional Budget Office. I mean, these are things that are so easily verifiable. I mean, you just can't. And to their credit, the ABC moderators did one right thing. They called out Tim Waltz about his comments when he was in Tiananmen Square, supposedly.
Wow, that one has come back to bite him in the butt. How could you do that and do that at the same time in two different places?
Exactly. And anyway, that's how this goes.
You said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to be...
Listen very closely. He does not answer the question. He goes on for quite a while. I'm sorry about how long this goes on, but you got to hear this.
Become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of 89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything, many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
First of all, being a command sergeant major, I don't think you should be labeled as a knucklehead. But the thing is,
he was never a command sergeant major. It was going to be, and he did not finish out his duties, taking his battalion over and went, go to a war zone? No, I'm just over here. Oh, screw that. I'm done.
Even during my time, I think I've known probably 7 or 8 E9s, and none of them would be categorized as a knucklehead. Not one of them. So, I mean, I just don't understand how you can have that mindset. But, he didn't answer that question at all. They actually, they had to follow up. And I have to give them credit. They followed up.
Question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this is I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor.
Of course, the eyes are as big as saucers when he's...
What he learned was we need to follow what the Chinese are doing, because this is, wow, look, they have all this control over everybody. We love this.
I know. It just seems like it really works well for them. They're all very well-behaved people.
And Trump trying to get in a trading war with China and lost? No.
He didn't lose anything.
China, it put their pockets in a tailspin when so much stuff was brought back to the U.S. and we started manufacturing things here. And then when this dock workers strike that lasted all of 2 days, and now they're going to be through the holidays. They're not going to be doing this. It's good till
January 15th, I think. Yeah.
No offense, I was in the union as same as you, but that clown that's in charge of him he sounds like a mob boss.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He sounds like
one.
A Gambino family guy or something. Hey, we ain't going to put up with this stuff here, huh?
Yeah, you guys are all going to hurt. You're going to know how much you should appreciate our job. We'll
cripple the whole economy. You'll see.
His little speech, American people went, screw that crap. Yeah. But how do you put a panic into American people from that? And they're running and buying toilet paper that's made in the U.S. and is not coming off a ship. Good Lord Almighty.
That's what worries me about Americans, is that we're so stupid. Why do we
dumber than a box of rocks?
I know it. It kills me. Let me see, where am I here? As far as that goes, I mean, he was just talking about knocking out the car bringing in the cars and the whole thing, and they don't want automation at these docks. And the thing is that all the docks around the world have implemented automation. Now I get it, you're taking away jobs, and I totally get it, but at the same time.
Happened to all of us with automation stuff.
Exactly. I mean, it happens even in the Teamsters shop where I worked. I mean, they brought in an automated a robot that unpacked boxes and stuff, and it's like it just happens. But it's so much more efficient. I mean, you look at all these other docks all around the world; they do probably almost double what we can do in our docks, because it's only everything is hand done.
We are the slowest in the world right now.
Yeah. So eventually it's got to change, and I get it.
You can't stop progress. That's like the buggy whip society back in the day where, they could have said, oh, no, you're going to buy from us, and there's always going to be buggies, and this automated car driving itself thing is just a fad. There's not very many buggy whip makers anymore.
No, not really.
Things change.
But you got to wonder, too, because think about this, the background of all this. Unions have always been in the pocket of the Democratic Party. It's just always been the way it is.
Happening this year.
So you got to wonder, though, with this whole strike, look how much of a black eye that would have put on Kamala's presidency or Kamala's run for the presidency if it did make all the store shelves being empty because all the China items or items from Europe or whatever stopped coming in. I mean, it would really look bad on her because she would allow it to happen. So I think that there was probably a phone call made and said, of course, this is speculation, and said, you know what, kick this can down the road a little bit. And you know what, especially if Trump gets in office in January, you do what you want to do, but let's kick this can down the road and let's make this go away for now. I wouldn't be surprised that happened. So,
yeah. Anyway,
we
got off topic. Where are we at with the debate?
They say that they were
my fault.
Yeah,
you're not even gonna. Well, thanks a lot. That bus hurt when it went over top of me.
Hey, if you're gonna throw yourself in front of it, I'll drive.
Shoot.
And I did try to say that the moderators were kind of fair in this vice presidential debate, but they weren't fair in other ways. When one of the moderators threw a quick jab before trying to change the subject, Senator Vance came back in force. And
he didn't let that slide at all.
Here we go.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
we're
because
going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Oh, boy, he embarrassed him. I like that. It just feeds my soul.
Thank you for describing that legal thing. Moving on.
That really fed my soul, though. It's like she tried to get in there and just kind of like throw that out there. And it's like, and he wasn't going to let it happen. I loved it.
No, give us a moment while we fix our makeup and get this egg off.
And poor Tampon Tim, he tried to bring up international relations and schisms that have broken out all over the place in the last 3.5 years. So here's JD again, intellectually dominating the conversation.
Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Yeah, and of course, remember Kamala tried to say that during her 4 years, nothing happened. And there
are no troops in a war zone.
That's what
I love the rebuttal from the troops that were in the war. Then where the are we?
Yep. Yeah, I think those guys were in Syria, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so
kind of a war zone there.
That's not a war zone. I don't know what is. So anyway, when it was over, even the lefties in the mainstream media had to be critical of Walz. But here was CNN summing up that performance pretty nicely.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here on Walz's part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe, yeah.
He had so many lines that he was clearly trying to say that he didn't listen and said when J.D. Vance said one of the many, many things he really hit Kamala Harris on, not Tim Walz, but Kamala Harris, he didn't respond because he clearly had things in his mind. I think the lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media, it showed. He needed more reps.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, J.D. Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
Now, I have a criticism on this. How could JD have more experience? He's been in the Senate for 2 years. He's been in politics for 2 years. Of course, Waltz has been in Congress. He was in Congress for 12 years? Governor of Minnesota
Something
for
like
8
that.
years?
Now he's been reelected a governorship almost a full 8 years there, if I remember right.
I think so.
Why are they making excuses for someone that should be well versed in how to do this by now?
Yeah, he needs more reps. That's what you see.
And he was a battalion commander, or essentially all he had to do was go overseas to get his credentials, and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
So if he hasn't been talking to troops and doing all that kind of stuff, what's he been doing?
He should be pretty comfortable talking in front of people. I mean, from the time
you would think.
Yeah, from the time you turn E5, you're talking in front of people, and it becomes more and more like that. So yeah, he should have had, and plus with 20 years in politics alone, even if it was just the state of Minnesota, I mean, it's just, I don't buy that excuse at all. Not whatsoever.
They were trying to make excuses for a very bad performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're up against another break. When we come back, we have a special guest from Western North Carolina, a friend of mine that I went to high school with, or went to school with, middle school with. She actually lives up in that area. She's got some good insight on what is actually going on up there, what isn't going on, about everybody's struggles and everything. It's very, she's got a lot to tell us. So hang in there. We will be right back.
More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey, he knew not to drink. We've made that clear to all of our kids, right?
No, not really.
Bill, if we don't tell them what we expect and why they shouldn't drink, how are they going to know?
Talk. They hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
You try.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3, and we are. I know, it's going quick.
Dippity-doo-dah. We've got. You're going to be talking to your friend in this segment. She's probably hearing me babble with you now, but go ahead and just take care of it. You guys have a rapport. You know each other. I don't know her from Shinola, and I don't want to make her uncomfortable, so I'm just going to let you deal with it.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah, we wanted to get some perspective on what's truly happening on the ground there in Western North Carolina. So I reached out to a friend of mine, actually to a couple of friends of mine that live up there, and I did hear back from one of them. This is somebody I've known since junior high school in Florida. So on the line with us right now is my friend Robin. We go back to the 7th grade. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I do.
Something like that. Anyway, we have very fuzzy memories because we are of the grayer generation. But Robin, you live somewhere near Hickory. Is that correct?
I do. So I am 20 minutes from Hickory. Like I literally can get to Hickory within 20 minutes. Okay. I am an hour from Charlotte. I'm an hour from Asheville, and I'm 1 hour from Boone.
Okay, so you're kind of in the centralized area where all the bad stuff happened.
Yes, yeah. Okay. I'm not in with the mountain flooding, but I'm close enough to know what's going on.
Okay, good.
And when I say that doesn't mean it didn't flood here. Morganton is just a few minutes down the road from me. So like all the little country towns run together.
Yeah.
And Morganton flooded. Like it flooded. I watched an aerial view of it today because I am not one of those that got in the car and drove around. Nope, I stayed put when everything got shut down.
I don't blame you. It just seems like a very scary time and everything. Now, your house and your children live nearby, or I know you said your son lives up in D.C., correct?
Yes, and then I have a daughter in Hickory.
Okay.
And then I have with her family and 3 kids, and then I have a daughter in Cashers, North Carolina that also got hit, and her and her husband have 3 boys.
So your house and their house, is everything kind of okay? Is everything?
Yeah. So I was worried about Allison because she literally is on top of the mountain. Like she's literally, and they had just put their home up there, and it's kind of a slanted down. But I know their town got hit pretty hard, and I didn't get to physically talk to her for several days. So I kind of teared up when I got to talk to her.
Yeah.
Because she fared well. oldest daughter, there's a lot of trees in the neighborhood down in Hickory, but Hickory did not get hit as hard as Burke County on. So the people that got the most damage was about 30, 45 minutes up the mountain, well, west, you know what I'm saying, going west.
Yeah.
And now, not to say we did not get hit hard. We did get hit. I mean, I stood here in the house, and I don't know what you would call it, when I happened to look out the window and watch a tree fall down. And then I happened to just walk into the next room and looked out, and I went, oh, they're not done yet. And I literally watched boom, boom, boom. Unfortunately, they fell in the neighbor's yard and not over my fence. But I felt kind of bad that they fell in her yard, but I'm glad they didn't hit my fence. So the only damage I got at my house was a leaky spare bedroom, but I have seen my friend's house with a tree on top of it. And so there was a lot of damage here, like the whole town shut down, and it was kind of creepy.
And to give us some perspective, we grew up in Southwest Florida, which is, we're looking at another hurricane coming straight in. I think it's going to hit Wednesday night. It's, but we really didn't have, we were talking about this before we went on the air, that I don't remember a lot of really, really bad hurricanes when we were kids, when we were younger.
I remember the memories. Do you remember the memories? Like my mom would wake us up. Now, we grew up without air in Florida and an old hurricane home, as it was called, an experimental hurricane home. So
the old General Development House. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, we did
so
too.
I remember coming in, hey girls, there's going to be a hurricane, and we'd watch the palm trees hit the ground and bounce back up. But I do not ever remember being in the height of a hurricane.
No, not at all. But the houses, I think that people who are not from there maybe not understand, but these were concrete block walls.
Yes.
I mean, they were about 18 inches thick. I mean, at least probably more like 24. So I was like, if you got hit with 160 mile an hour winds, your windows might blow out, but the house is going to stand.
Yeah. And it still does. My dad's in the same house. It still does, literally.
And that's something.
It is fun.
Those were built back in the 50s, I think, and they stood strong. But I think you lived over off of Easy Street, and I lived off of Conway, which we had a canal between us. That was really about it. But yeah, it was. It's different now. It seems like there's more hurricanes, even though I looked at statistics and stayed about the same for the last 50 years. I know that a lot of these climatologists that get paid by the federal government or get whatever to say that things are getting worse. I don't know if they're getting worse, but I know that they seem to be getting landfall more often.
I was just going to say, like, I got a little cocky living here because my dad is dealing with the hurricanes for the last, Charlie hit in 2004.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Dad, move up here. You don't have anything. And there was a sense of security. Our snowfall, last big snowfall we had, I think my youngest daughter was 3 and she's 33 now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we don't deal with all that stuff, Dad. I don't. So when this hurricane was expected to come a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, no big deal. But I will make this statement. I will never not be ready again. I will never not be ready again. I had no gas in the car, did not have bottled water. I did not have hardly any food in the house. And when I tell you everything shut down. And so I did find out that when I got in my car that an eighth of a tank will actually go 59 miles. So I was able to go, 5 miles down the road and get gas. But I waited several days before I ventured out because people were saying how awful it was and they were going to Hickory to get stuff. And then we were under that boil water advisory. We were getting the warning from Morganton that everything was flooded and we will run out of water. But, thank the Lord that did not happen. We did not, but we still were under boil water. People were generous. I mean, the neighborhoods given to one another was amazing.
I've heard a lot of those stories, a lot of neighbors helping neighbors. And, I was hoping you would have a story about that because that's, to me, that's what America is all about. And I think that when these tragedies happen, it brings it out.
Let me tell you, walking across the street and my neighbor's waving and we sit down and there's my other neighbor there and we're grilling out, breakfast on the grill. We're sitting there not staring at phones. We're drinking coffee. We looked forward to the next day. She's like, don't forget to come over for coffee, because they had a generator. I did not have a generator. And it's just waving at each other, standing in the street and talk to each other. And I can't tell you that I've seen, like right now in the mountains, it's still very bad. Like it's very bad. Like they're running people from here up the mountains with like Samaritan's Purse. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was going to ask you about that. So,
well, different organizations. Our church, oh my gosh, started off with some moms. They were just said, okay, we got to clean out a fridge. We got to get this food cooked the next day so it doesn't spoil. It turned into almost like a distribution center. I dedicated a little bit of time to go over there, but there was a group of people that worked, I think, every day, morning and night, and it got bigger. Somebody donated a freshly killed hog, and they were barbecuing for the community. I mean, just one truck. They shared something yesterday in church about, I'm not sure if it was an Amazon truck. He called and said, we're dropping this stuff off. And the guy said, well, why did you pick our church to drop off? He goes, I don't know. This is where we're dropping it off. It wasn't even something our church called for. So it became, families were coming and people came together, and it's just the results of the hurricane was crazy. I mean, I've watched one of the women I work with is a coach, and she had this idea to, hey, let's take and give to the opposing teams. So her girls came in, wrote handwritten letters, collected all this stuff, made buckets for the opposing team, and have delivered it to all the schools in the mountains. Just neat stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of sad. So I was one of the lucky ones. I got my electric back fast. And I don't want to use the word blessed, because there are a lot of Christians out there, a lot of good people out there who are just now getting their electric back, their water back. I mean, seriously, like in the last couple of days. And so I want to say I was one of the lucky ones. In fact, my daughter and her family were bringing me supplies Saturday evening, candles and little night lights. My grandchildren brought me little night lights. And right before they got there, the electric came on. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the electric just came on. And then someone I work with, she just got it like a day ago. So it just depends on the area you're in. And so I don't want to say blessed. I want to say I was lucky.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm sitting here in my spare bedroom and I'm looking up and there's damage on my ceiling, but it's nothing. I have friends that have had trees come in the house, had to leave their house. They got mold in the house already.
Gosh, it's just awful. Now, have you seen much federal response? Have you seen FEMA trucks or personnel or anything like that driving around?
Yes. I went to pick up my oldest granddaughter. It'll make me cry. What night was it? I guess Friday after work, at teacher work days, because school's not in session yet. And so I went Friday night, and on my way to Hickory, which is just 20 minutes from where I live, I looked over and there was a line of military, and they were sitting off the exit, getting ready to come onto the exit. Well, Levi and I, yes, that's a girl. Her name is Levi. She was in the back seat, and we're driving, and I get behind a convoy of military. And so I said, come on, Levi, let's count them. So I think we counted close to 15. And I started to tear up, because I think at that point, the realization of how horrific it is in the mountains. People don't expect the mountains to flood.
No.
I mean, you don't. And I called my girlfriend in Boone, and we've been friends for 30 years. And she said, Robin, it's devastating. You don't understand. It's devastating here. There are houses off the foundation. She goes, the road coming to my house is like collapsed. And she said, one of the coworkers I work with collapsed at both ends and can't get out of her house. But so when I saw the military convoy, little Levi stuck her hand out and she was screaming, thank you, and waving at every one of them. And I think it was at that point that the realization of, oh my gosh, these people are in a horrific situation. Yes, we're getting back to the normalcy here in my county. You know, yes, you can go through a neighborhood and there are lines down and there are trees down and there are trees in people's houses. But people on top of the mountain are losing their lives. And the amount of air traffic, Mike, you and I both know, growing up in Florida, we hear the sirens in the airplanes all day long. That's not a normalcy here. But the amount of military, I've seen red choppers, I've seen orange choppers, I've seen the huge military green choppers rescuing people. That stuff is phenomenal. Like it's just, you sit here and there goes another, there goes another, there goes another. Crazy.
Yeah.
But I think the convoy is what tore me up when I realized they're going up to rescue, to serve, to help others,
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've only begun to scratch the surface of people that have been affected by this. They still have, I think, up to 1,000 people
Wow.
that they don't even know whether they've made it or where they are right now. So,
Not accounted for.
yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping that this Milton that's coming across the Gulf right now, headed straight towards, well, just north of where we lived. It's a Category 5. It turned Category 5 today. So
I was talking to my dad today because I was checking on him. And so, as you know, my dad is a retired officer there in Charlotte County, and everybody knew me as the cops kid. But he has always weathered those storms in his house.
Yeah.
And he is evacuating, and he's going, I think Neil Armstrong is open in Punta Gorda, which if you knew my dad, that's not something he would do. So I'm a little bit nervous that he's evacuating his house to go to a shelter. So his comment to me was, I'm done living on the coast. I'm done living on the coast now.
I don't blame him. I mean, it's like, I don't have any family. Well, I do have family up just north of Tampa. But as far as in Port Charlotte, I've got some friends from high school, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's it's
touch with the same friends.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, because our community, even though our high school graduating class was over 400, but our community in the Port Charlotte side, we were all pretty close to each other. We all
Yes. You gave me goosebumps. I'm telling you, Mike, I think of that all the time, like how tight knit our class was. And I think it goes back to what you and I were talking about with the cell phones.
Yeah.
If I have a homeroom class at school, I can look over and most of my students are on their phone. And so sometimes I'm like, guys, put the phones up. I got to do some instruction right now. And then they'll start conversing. But back in the day, it was knock on each other's door, ride their bike to each other's house.
Yeah.
We didn't have the cell phones to communicate. We had to take a bike right down the street.
Yep.
And so I think being that close-knit group grew from us hanging out in the streets together.
No, you're right. I think that it was just a different era. I don't know. The phones have been, it's kind of neat having like a little computer in your pocket you could pull out. And if you don't know the definition of a word, I use it all the time for that stuff. But this whole fake friends, I've got 1,200 friends on Facebook. I think I know about 50 of them personally. It's like, I don't know these people. And then they get mad at me if I post something about, that's mildly political. I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, I don't even know. I wouldn't recognize you in the street. So
you're like, it's my Facebook. I'll post what I want.
Exactly. Well, Robin, I appreciate you taking the time and talking to us this morning. We just have, we so much information and misinformation, they've been talking about that since COVID, but I mean, there's just lots of stuff going on up where you live, and maybe we'll talk again once the dust settles a little bit more, and maybe we have a better handle on things. And
I've enjoyed talking to you, Mike. Bring back so many memories.
Yeah, we remember all different things, but they all kind of come together when we were talking before. It's good.
They do. Good stuff. They do.
All right. Well, Robin, you take care of yourself, and I hope that your children remain safe and everything goes well, and your grandchildren, and we will talk again. Thank you very much.
Stay healthy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You think about the people in Lahaina. Remember when they lost everything? They got, what, $700?
People, and we'll talk more about that in the next segment. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But just blessings to all those people, and there's so many more that they have no idea.
No.
Somebody yesterday was just talking about still seeing bodies floating down the river. That's just sad.
It is, and some of the stories, and Glenn Beck has been on the ground over there too, and with his organization called Mercury One, They have dollar for dollar, everything you ever give to that organization goes directly to the people who in need. So mercury1.org, I can't recommend them enough. Samaritan's Purse is another one. That's Franklin Graham's outfit. They actually don't donate to the Red Cross. I've heard too many bad things about that. Now, also, I think the federal government's been kind of getting their paws in some of that stuff too. And you just got to be careful where you donate your money, put it that way. I'm not going to tell you to or not to, but it's some of the stories, like you said, I heard one person say that the stench in some areas just because of the dead bodies. I mean, it's like, I can't even imagine. Just can't imagine.
It's just a sad situation.
Really
and
is.
You think the government will be there to help you out. They ain't doing squat.
No. We do appreciate Robin coming on with us, and it was great to have that perspective. And maybe we'll get around again in another month or so and see how things have changed since all that. So
that was great to hear. She did a fantastic job.
Yeah, she was great.
I'm glad I wasn't there to interrupt. There was she was terrific with it.
Yep, she was very good. Very good. We appreciate you, Robin. And let's see, we are up against another break. So when we come back, we are going to talk a little bit more about the money situation as far as the federal government's response to these people who have lost everything or the lack thereof. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're in our demographic, it might be a good time to go and pee. We'll be right back in just a minute.
With more ways than ever to connect to news and entertainment, 90% of new car buyers want that tried and true AM/FM radio option. That's because your local radio stations are reliable, trustworthy, and bring you a local connection that can't be replicated. Not to mention, it's free. No subscription or cellular data required. More than 80 million Americans each month depend on AM for their news, weather, local sports, and entertainment, plus talk radio. Help keep AM radio an option in new cars. Text AM to 52886. You'll get an auto-filled email letter to send to Congress urging them to keep AM radio in cars. Again, text AM to 52886. Brought to you by your friends at the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. If you didn't go pee, then we're you're going to have to cross your legs a little bit. But anyway,
we'll be done eventually. We know us. Eventually,
we were going to talk about the people, the government's response to people who have lost everything here in the U.S. and how bad that really truly is. The people of Lahaina, I started to mention that before. We were not running out of time. They lost everything. They got what, $700?
$700. Yep.
People of East Palestine in Ohio, when they had that train derailment, I don't think they got anything.
I don't think that they've gotten anything either. If they did, I never saw anything about it.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't know of any news article. And boy, if the government's giving them money, they want to be front and center at the podium telling you, look how much money we gave them. Yeah, right.
It didn't happen.
And now we have issues with how much they're giving them. I don't know if Lahaina was the same way, but in Asheville, it's giving them $750, and you can't hardly read the fine print at the bottom of all this stuff you're signing without a magnifying glass. And this came from a former FEMA employee that says he's seen the forms, and they're still on there with this fine print that says, we're not giving you this money. This is a loan for $750 to somebody who hasn't got the proverbial pot to piss in. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything, and you got to pay that money back within 12 months. If you don't, the government will be able to seize your property. Don't tell me it's not a land grab. Stick it in your ear. And the gentleman was saying something about it was so fine. So it's like 3-point font. I mean, that's barely legible.
Us old guys ain't going to be able to read that one.
No, I'm not going to be able to see it. So I mean, why don't you just kick somebody while they're down? Jesus.
You know, the thing is this misappropriation of money that our federal government's been a part of for so long, and brought up Lahaina, and it's like, people have lost everything. And again, the whole conspiracy theory that seems to be coming true is that it's a land grab, and they've been able to take this pristine,
already happening.
Yeah, this pristine land that's waterfront, a lot of it, and $700.
There's going to be big hotels and stuff out there within 3 years. Mark my words.
And I may have mentioned, I think I have mentioned this before, but Joe Rogan actually reported on this a while back, that if they wanted to rebuild all of Lahaina that got destroyed, somebody ran the numbers and it would have taken somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 billion to rebuild everything. And that sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But you got to think, so far this year, the U.S. has given Ukraine $24 billion with a B.
Yeah. Not an M, that's a B.
That's right. $11 billion to Israel, which they are in the middle of a lot of crap over there, and they are truly allies. So we should be doing that. But we've been given almost $2 billion to Ethiopia, $1.6 billion to Jordan, $1.4 billion to Egypt, $1.1 to Afghanistan, $1.1 to Somalia, $1 billion to Yemen. Yemen hates us anyway. Let them hate us for free.
Well, so does Somalia, for crying out. Where do you think all the pirates are coming from?
And then almost $1 billion to Congo and Syria. And of course, but we can't let go of our money. If you're the federal government, you can't let go of that money to our own citizens. Goodness gracious, we can't. And if it only takes $6 billion out of everything that I just listed there, that's got, I didn't add all that up, but that's got to be north of $40 billion right there just this year. So you can't tell me you couldn't peel off $6 billion to rebuild Lahaina for those poor people. What about the poor people in the Southeast and Georgia and Tennessee, Alabama, especially Western North Carolina? People have lost everything. You're going to give them $750? It's a slap in the face. Absolutely.
It's
and especially you're going to ask for it back.
Yeah, and it's like, this'll maybe get you by for a year. $750 won't get you by for 3 days, let alone a year. It barely would cover for a week if you had a place to cook stuff and do things. These people got nothing.
That's right.
There's whole towns that was a nice little, cute little town that was right along the river's been there forever. There's nothing.
Just
There's
gone.
not even foundations left. Yep. It's all filled in with mud and silt and everything's gone.
There's so much building material and logs and everything in that river. It almost looks like land, and it's just bottled up. It's a mess. Speaking of money, back in June, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas had high hopes.
It's Alejandro Mayorkas. I am here to take care of you.
Yeah, he had high hopes for how prepared FEMA was. This is how positive he was back then.
FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well. And it's not just hurricanes and wildfires, also extreme heat, which certainly some parts of the United States are already experiencing.
So that sounded pretty good, but as of the other day, he's kind of changed.
Wait a minute. As a government official, it sounds good. That means, what are you whitewashing over?
There's a hand behind their back with a knife in it. Here's what
their fingers are crossed. I saw him.
Here's what he said the other day.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
We do not have the funds. We had plenty earlier. We were very prepared, and this has been a light hurricane season. I don't think there's really been, we're only on, was it Milton?
I like to say, there's another one coming, and for you folks, well, sucks to be you, because we got nothing for you.
Yeah.
Why don't you just say it that way? Because that's what he said.
That's exactly what it is.
Jesus, criminy.
Maybe funneling all that money to help people breaking into the country legally might hurt things a little bit.
Could be part of it.
It's only upwards of about $1 billion. KJP was out there saying there's nothing to see here, and FEMA did not use their funds for illegals. Here's what she said.
It's just categorically false. No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants.
Again, that sounds good, but I think her fingers were crossed again.
Fingers, toes, her feet were crossed. Yeah.
Her eyes. I think that they're normally like that. But back in 2022, she said something a little bit different about FEMA money.
So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's Emergency Food and Shelter Program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants.
Support humanitarian relief for migrants. And I've seen a couple of different stories, and I don't know which ones are true, but one of them I saw was $985 million towards that effort. The other one I saw was $1.4 billion for that effort, and that was just this year alone. So, and that does, from her own words, comes out of the FEMA, a fund in FEMA. So I think that's why FEMA's broke. That's why poor Alejandro, what's the matter, Alejandro? We're out of money.
Yikes.
So,
it's just really, come on. And you just told us all that wasn't even 2 years ago that's where the money was going. And, it's not that way. And FEMA was stopping individuals from helping and getting to some of these people, that there's a pack mule company that's the only way you're getting into them because there's no roads or anything anymore. Yep. They had to cut down trees just to get through, to have a path to get to them. So bless their loving hearts, they're working their butts off, and FEMA's going, no, the government will do it.
Yeah.
And we get around to it. Eventually, we might help. Well, maybe. It's all a matter of time.
Even if only some of those stories are true, supposedly they've taken some of those donations and said, "Well, we're gonna pass these out. We can do a better job of that." And it's like, and so they're going to take credit for passing out those things, which is fine. Those organizations they don't necessarily want credit anyway. But if you don't know the organizations are doing it, you don't know who to donate to. So. But yeah, there's so many levels you can't trust the federal government, unfortunately.
What? You mean we were supposed to?
But like you said, this big swath of Florida is going to be hit by this Category 5 storm. I think I said when I was talking to Robin, it was yesterday when they put it on Category 5. It's like
supposed to hit Wednesday, and it's not supposed to slow down. It's going to be a Category 3 by the time it gets to the other side of Florida. Yeah. So even going across land, it's not hardly slowing down.
And think about the millions of people, because right now I think it's actually aimed directly at Tampa. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that live, we're talking millions and millions of people that live there. This could be really catastrophic. I mean, more than...
I got a friend that's exactly halfway between Tampa and Orlando. So it's going to go right over top of them with a Cat 3. Man, that's inland, and you got all the swampland and all that. That's going to fill up with water like that. And then you got alligators and snakes and... you're going to have just stuff everywhere.
Just mold damage alone from all that stuff. It would be so bad. And of course, our friend over in Melbourne, Charlie, he's preparing for stuff. I mean, it's just going to get ugly. We've got a lot. Both of us have a lot of friends in that area. So it's just terrible. So we need a palate cleanser after all that, of course, as palate cleansers go. Paul Harvey's rest of the story. You know the story how that usually goes. They start out by saying the kid was a pretty ugly kid, and they grew out of it. The whole ugly duckling turned into a beautiful swan. God in His infinite wisdom kept me an ugly kid. So I'm an ugly 60-year-old. But anyway,
that's why we're behind the mic and not of stuff.
You know us with a face for radio. And so here we are.
That's why I always played character parts, because I could look kind of schlebby, and it's okay.
But I think you'll recognize the name here at the end, that who Paul Harvey is talking about. And you will be surprised that she was once an ugly duckling.
The rest of the story. Fifth grader Patsy McClenny had no trouble in selecting a book for her required book report. She chose The Life of Louis Pasteur. Just about any science-oriented book would have been all right with Patsy. Barely 10, she had already decided that science would be her life, specifically either medicine or paleontology. Yet it was not only Patsy's prodigious intellect that led her in such directions. It was what she saw when she looked in the mirror. A skinny, bespectacled, ugly duckling who would never get anywhere in life on her looks. Even Patsy's own mother called her chicken legs. What was left for her, the child reasoned, but to conquer the world with her gifted brain. And so, while the other girls were reading Nancy Drew mysteries, Patsy McClenny pored over weighty analyses of Paleozoic rock strata and so on. It was perhaps even a slight condescension when she selected a biography of her personal hero, Louis Pasteur, for her oral book report. At least there was a kind of story to that, she thought, which ought to hold her classmates' attention. The manuscript of Patsy's report was neat and meticulously organized, as were all of her homework assignments, and she'd read it through many times, had it practically memorized. Patsy McClenny was prepared for everything, except for her own emotions. In this day of the 5th grade oral book reports, as the youngsters stepped forward one at a time to give their reports, it became increasingly clear that Patsy's was by far the most adult, the most interesting of all of the books chosen. But as Patsy listened to each report, her eyes wandered around the room, searching the faces of her classmates. Gradually, a terrible, sick feeling came over her. Those faces have become mirrors like the one in her own bedroom, the one that reflects a gangly, painfully plain bookworm for whom life beyond printed pages had ceased to exist. For years, Patsy had heard the taunts to her face and behind her back. Weird, the others often called her, but never before today had Patsy McClenny felt so utterly strange. And then suddenly the teacher's voice startled her. The teacher is calling her name. It is now her turn to stand before the class. Patsy rises slowly, looks into those faces, clutching her report. She is frozen on the spot. Well, the teacher says. And Patsy's eyes flood with tears, and in a sudden burst of grief and fear, she dashed from the room. And to this day, Patsy McClenny cannot stand before an audience large or small and give a speech. I want to run that by once more for a purpose. To this day, Patsy McClenny cannot stand before an audience large or small and give a speech, because she will never completely outdistance the awful shyness that plagued her childhood. She says the self-consciousness that comes with being an ugly duckling, and yet, while her brilliant brain might have taken her to the pinnacles of scientific achievement, she instead sought to overcome, if only partially, the dread of facing other people by doing so in the guises of make-believe characters as an actress. And so, this word of comfort to all of the authors of unspoken book reports, to all of the owners of mirrors with cruel reflections, and to any who've ever thought an anxious silence, don't look at me. Look instead at Patsy McClenny, whom the world now knows as the talented, ultimately self-confident, ravishingly beautiful Morgan Fairchild. Now you know the rest of the story.
Morgan Fairchild. Yeah, she's my girlfriend. Yeah, wow. Hey. Remember The Liar on Saturday Night Live? It was always his girlfriend. Anyway, yeah.
Oh my, yeah. She's still around, I believe.
I think so. I didn't look it up, but I think she is. But
she was Chandler's mom.
I think so. Yeah, on Friends. I think so.
Yeah.
Wow, I forgot about that. You're right. But that was the last thing that she's been on. I haven't seen her on TV in a long time.
It seems like she was on Big Bang Theory once, and her character for whoever she was being somebody's mom, it didn't work out.
Oh, okay. So. I saw something the other day. It was an older show. It was called The Guardian, and we were talking about this off the air. But she was some kid's grandmother. This woman, it wasn't Morgan Fairchild, but it was Farrah Fawcett. And I'm like going, when did Farrah Fawcett die? And it was like 2009. This show was out in 2003. But it was like, you hardly recognized her. They had her without makeup on and the whole thing. But it's like there was still that base, though. You could see that was her, and that at least at one time she was completely,
some have aged better than others.
Yeah.
That one's a nice one. I think I heard it, but I'm going, oh, who was it? Because I didn't recognize the name, obviously, at first. And then it's, Morgan, she was on a nighttime soap opera stuff. That's what she did a lot of.
Yeah. She was on,
which was Dallas and that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I forgot which one it was she was on.
I don't remember them either, but yeah, she was on one of those. I don't remember the names. I didn't watch them.
Again, it's a good one. I didn't watch it either, but we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did, and we do appreciate Robin coming on the show. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speakers, sometimes YouTube and Rumble. So hang in there, and you can.
And don't forget, you can catch up with us on OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time for the drive home, and you can listen to us instead of worry about traffic. It'll take your mind off stuff. Two goofballs yibby-yabbing away. So just go to OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com, scroll down, there's a play button, ta-da! We'll be there at 5 on Thursdays.
You're here on Golden
And
Tones.
if that's just too complicated, just go to our good old website at StayOffMyLawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
And we will see you next week, folks.
Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate all of you. Toodles. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The